Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. I was most of the way through this episode when I realized that the date on my article did not say December 23rd, 2025. It said December 23rd, 2024. This happened last year, not this year. But rather than scrap the entire episode and start entirely over, I figured I should present my episode and we'll just have to pretend that I am discussing this in 2024 when it was current news. I think it's still worth discussing, and it's not like Matt Gaetz got any better between then and now. So I hope you can still enjoy the episode, even though the topic is not quite as fresh as the ones I usually cover. I guess you could say it's a bit of a stale slice of news. The House Ethics Committee has released their report that said they found substantial evidence that former Republican Representative Matt Gaetz had inappropriate relations with a 17-year-old girl back in 2017 while he was still serving in Congress, and that he regularly paid women for sex during his time in office. This guy really was the Republican Party's Jared from Subway. We all know he was an awful guy. It's not news, but this report officially confirms that he was doing some of the most despicable things a man could do while serving in public office. I mean, paying women for sex while you're serving in Congress is pretty bad. It's scummy all on its own. But to do it with an underage girl of just 17 is just gross on a whole other level. And I'd say the guy should be ashamed of himself, but very clearly, if he had any ability to feel shame, he would already have long since passed that point, because he has just done so much, and now this report puts it all out officially. And oh, by the way, if that wasn't bad enough, which it is definitely very bad, he did more than just pay for sex. He did more than just have sexual relations with an underage girl. He also, while serving as a representative for Florida, used drugs, both cocaine and ecstasy, multiple times between 2017 and 2019, according to this report. And that's not all. He also accepted gifts in excess of permissible amounts, according to the committee, including a 2018 trip to the Bahamas. Matt Gaetz was apparently all kinds of bad, and this is the guy that our president wanted to be the Attorney General of the United States. But I guess at the same time, considering who our president is and what sort of accusations he's facing with these Epstein files, it's not all that surprising he thought Matt Gaetz was the guy he wanted in his inner circle and in a higher position in his administration. He probably thought, hey, this Matt Gaetz, he's just like me. He reminds me of a me. There's nobody I love more than me, so it's better than one me. Two me's. I mean, he probably didn't really, but, I'd like to think maybe it was some of his thought process. Though I suppose it is important to note that his name was removed from consideration, and the job, of course, did end up going to Pam Bondi. Considering what this report has uncovered, the idea that he could have been the Attorney General of our great nation really leaves you feeling kind of ugh. But also, these are the kind of guys that are the Republican Party in 2025. They are the modern GOP. Sure, maybe not everyone rose to the Matt Gaetz level of depravity and criminality, but Matt Gaetz isn't an aberration. It's not like the entirety of the Republican Party were upstanding citizens, and he was the one outlier. He's just the worst and most public example. The committee report found, quote, substantial evidence that Representative Gaetz violated House rules, state and federal laws, and other standards of conduct prohibiting prostitution, statutory rape, illicit drug use, acceptance of impermissible gifts, the provision of special favors and privileges, and the obstruction of Congress. Just one of those would be bad enough, but he did all of them. I mean, we thought he was a scummy guy already, but at least I had no idea just how bad he really was. And this ethics report really paints a very clear picture of just how bad this guy was while he was serving in elected office. As bad as all the stuff the report found Matt Gaetz did do, it's also important to note what the report found he had not done. They may have found him guilty of a lot of things, but they did not find enough evidence to prove that he had violated federal sex trafficking laws, though he did cause the transportation of women across state lines for the purposes of commercial sex. So he did transport women, but he did not traffic women for sex, which I suppose is an important distinction to make. And also they found that those women were not under 18 at least when that travel took place, and that there was no force, fraud, or coercion. So at least he didn't force them into anything. It was all consensual. So I guess that's something. Of course, before this report even came out, Matt Gaetz tried to get a federal judge to issue a temporary restraining order to block its release, which, as we can see, did not work. And he denies any wrongdoing because, of course, he does. Undeniably, Matt Gaetz is a bad guy who did bad things. He was found to have paid women tens of thousands of dollars between 2017 and 2020, which the committee report found was likely in connection with sexual activity and or drug use. This was definitely a guy who acted, as the report called, a manner that reflects discreditably upon the House. And like I alluded to before, Matt Gaetz, yes, may be one of the most egregious examples, but he's certainly not the only one in his party doing bad things. The only difference is the things he did were so bad that they had to write an ethics report to investigate just how much he actually did. As far as I'm concerned, Matt Gaetz is in a lot of ways the face of the modern Republican Party, in addition to our criminal president, of course. And it's just wild to think he was even in the running to be Attorney General when the Justice Department was the exact same law enforcement division that had been investigating him on allegations of sex trafficking. Guys like him really call into question what the future is going to be like for their party if these are the sorts of people that are infested within it. The old GOP that had some sort of ethical standards is clearly a thing of the past. It really leaves us wondering what is next for the Republican Party, and really what is next for Matt Gaetz specifically. If this report found that he committed a crime, what is prosecution the next step? And if it is, the real question is why hasn't it happened yet? What is it that is preventing the wheels of justice to move forward on this guy? My guess is that just like many high-placed Republicans, he's got friends in high places that are keeping things from moving forward at the pace they should be. In a lot of ways, it feels like the P in GOP stands for protect our own, because that seems to be what they do all the time. Whenever something like this comes out, they seem to find a way to shield the accused from the consequences of their actions. I, for one, am getting really tired of seeing just how many Republicans get away with stuff in this current government, and how much they actually do and get away with in the first place. Matt Gaetz should be in prison right now, and yet he is not. And that is a serious problem that everyone should really be looking at and trying to figure out why that is. I think the nation as a whole is incredibly lucky that we managed to avoid having Attorney General Matt Gaetz, considering just how egregious his crimes are. Yes, he has yet to face the charges in a court of law, but that doesn't make the things that he did not very clearly criminal. We've already got a criminal president. The last thing we need is a criminal AG also. Though in some ways it would almost be poetic to have a criminal head the Justice Department, a lawbreaker at the head of law enforcement. Although I suppose thankfully we were all spared when he withdrew his name after only 8 days of consideration for the job. I spent most of this topic looking backwards. What did he do in the past? And what bearing that has on the present. But discussing him, and I suppose by extension, the Republican Party as a whole, really what we need to be thinking about is the future. The 2026 midterms are now less than a year away, and if this is the kind of caliber of person the Republican Party has to offer, Democrats are absolutely going to wipe the floor with them, because this kind of guy is just not acceptable for public office at all. While Matt Gaetz himself may have been an extreme example, he is not unique in the Republican Party. Now, I'd absolutely say the last thing I want to do is to give Republicans any ideas of how to succeed going forward. And I'd personally have absolutely no problem seeing the Republican Party as a whole collapse in on itself entirely, since I know that's definitely not what they want. They really have to look at what allowed a Matt Gaetz to happen in the first place and how to avoid something like that happening again for them. What they really need is a complete rebrand, not just saying these are not the kinds of people that represent our party, but to not allow people like them in their party in the first place. The party of law and order can't keep having criminals and lawbreakers in their party in prominent positions. It's just a really bad look for them, and if they want to survive further into the 21st century, that can't be what people associate with them. But right now, that's exactly what they do, because that's what we're seeing. Never really thought I'd hear myself say it, but I kind of miss the Republican Party of George W. Bush and John McCain. Sure, I never agreed with anything they did, and on several occasions literally went out in the streets and protested against some of the things George W. Bush administration was doing. I felt that personally opposed to it, but that Republican Party never seemed as slimy and seedy as the current GOP does. And I know we would all be better off if they went back to something more akin to that than what we have right now. Considering how the Republican Party is now and certainly looks like it's headed, I don't foresee that happening. But you know what they say, hope springs eternal. Alright guys, that'll be it for this episode of A Slice of News. I've been your host, Mr. Slice. Until next time, when I cut you off, another slice of news.